welcome back to Consultants Corner. I'm Rebecca Brizi. This is my corner. I am a consultant. I'm presenting a webinar today for the ACE Women's Business Center. It is a local nonprofit that works with the SBA here in the United States to secure loans for underfunded businesses. It targets in particular businesses started by women who struggle to get financing through traditional means. There will be a recording of that webinar. I'll be able to take some pieces and share that with you and take you through some of my presentation today. I hope you enjoy.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. It is indeed a pleasure to welcome you to this presentation. Today's topic is how to balance working in your business and on your business, presented by Rebecca Brizi. My name is Sandra Fon, and I am the director of ACE Women's Business Center. We are the educational arm of Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs, also known as ACE. Our mission is to provide community economic development to underserved people and communities. We're a nonprofit organization that was established in 1999, and we help start and grow small businesses in Georgia through capital, coaching, and connections, focusing on underserved people and communities. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter. Rebecca Brizi has a simple test she applies to all her clients' businesses. She provides workshops and consulting to small businesses so they have dedicated employees, loyal customers, and simple management.
Which means that one day, literally from one day to the next, we were told that we had to leave that office space, and we were just suddenly without an office. And this was in the early 2000s. This was before we had Zoom or even Skype, I guess, and it was not that, maybe Skype had just come about. So we decided at that point that we wanted to make sure that no matter what happened in our business, we never had a logistical disruption. We said we have to be able to keep working even when something happens that we can't control. It's that experience that first taught me how to build a business process, build systems in a business that really balance working in your business and on your business. How do you keep your business running through types of disruption? Fast forward, now I consult with small businesses, and this is one of the main struggles that my clients bring to me. This balance of working in business and on business. Anybody who's been in business for 5 minutes has come across this dilemma. You have to serve clients, but at the same time, you have to keep the business running. Most people start a business because they're good at the craft of that business and they're doing the actual craft, but then how are they growing the business and doing the administration and doing everything else that goes with that? What we're talking about today is how to create that business that will withstand disruption, that will be a solid way to run a business, that will work really well for you in good times when things are going well, but will keep you steady in difficult times. Because here's the thing about crises. They don't just happen once every 10 years. A global crisis might happen once every 10 years, but we all deal with struggles in our business. Sometimes you lose a major client. Sometimes you lose a key employee. Sometimes something happens in the legal environment, regulatory environment, or just in the competitive environment that has to change how we work. Those are small personal crises. But building a strong system for a business means you can work through those without difficulty, without disruption. It's okay once we've first started and we do whatever has to be done when it has to be done. But as the business grows, we start to realize that that's no longer possible. The volume of work is growing, and we need to have systems so that when we are dealing with the day-to-day, we're not rediscovering the wheel every single time. We actually know how to deal with things, and we can do more work without having to actually dedicate more time. The way you want to describe the how is not so much the detail of click here, open this file, pick up the phone. It's much more about when is this thing complete? How do we know that we've been successful on this? So if we say what has to happen is we have to train employees, why does it have to happen? So that our employees can always answer questions and can always bring value to our clients. How it happens is by saying, we know that our employees have either done these training courses, or we have them complete certain quizzes or assessments, or we have our employees train other employees. Something happens here that tells you that this is happening, that you are completing this, and you can point to that to say, we've been successful in this. It's much more important that your employees are well trained than just to say, read a training manual, right? It's not the reading the training manual that makes the difference. It's them being able to then put that into practice. Same with getting new clients. It's not so much saying, well, I just closed 15 sales. If those turn out to be terrible clients and tomorrow they're all going to ask for refunds, or they thought they bought something different, right? If the process isn't managed towards a successful outcome, then we're too focused on tasks and not focused on success. All the details that go into that second column. Why does this matter? How does it bring value? In the third column, the how it has to happen, what you write in pen is, what does success mean? How do I know that this thing has been successful? How does that bring value and success to my company as a whole, not just to this one task, but actually drive company value? Those things are written in pen, which means that you can't erase them and write over them. They're permanent, semi-permanent. Those are your foundations, and that's what you look at to make decisions. There's also part of your business that's written in pencil, and that is very simply how things get done.
To all participants, this is your opportunity to ask any questions to Rebecca. Just let us know what's in your mind. I have another question. Let me see. From Robin. I have an 18-month-old nonprofit. I do not have staff, but work closely with my board, which was required to establish the nonprofit. Question, do I utilize the board for now the same as I would future staff? Example, skills, preference, 6 months redress, etc.
Yeah, short answer is sure. Why not? If what you do, the difference with the board is, they're not employees. So employees are directly beholden to you. The board is beholden to the mission. And of course, a lot of this depends on what's the agreement of the board. Is this a voluntary, are these voluntary positions? If so, there's really only so much you can impose on them. Having said that, I would take the same approach. Yes, use your board and come to them from the point of view of shared mission. So not that different really from what we were saying, but say, you're on this board because you believe in this cause and you want to bring value, and there's something in it for you as well. You get that position, you get that prestige. Here's what needs to happen over this next 6 months for this nonprofit to really bring value, to really achieve those goals. These things have to happen in your position as a board member. What do you think about? And to each individual one, say, what do you think about you doing this? I think you'd be great at this. Could you run with it? So, come in with a shared mission, tell them why you want them to do certain things. I suggest not asking for volunteers, but actually suggesting what each person should do and telling them why you want them to do that. And then absolutely running with them as if they were your employees, but recognizing that, that the relationship is a little bit different.
Okay, the next question is from Charles. Is the plan another version of a business plan?
Yeah, good question. The business plan, it's a good question because business plans are used in so many different ways. This is an operational plan, internal operations. A business plan, you want to think of a business plan in the traditional sense of the word as something that people write to get funding. That's a sort of traditional approach of a business plan. The business plan does not go into this level of detail. It's a higher level. It also includes other things. It's looking at financing. It has a description of your target market and total addressable market, right? Like what is the revenue potential of this business? All those sorts of things. That's information that doesn't necessarily have to go into this plan. So they're a little bit different. You can think of the operational plan as being, if you had a business plan and you wanted to zoom right into one part of it and go into really great detail, that's how you can think of this plan. This is zooming into one part of your business plan and using it in the day-to-day. A business plan doesn't necessarily describe the day-to-day to a business. As I say, it does it at a high level, but it's more about thinking strategically about the business as a whole. The operational plan is still thinking strategically, but about really what needs to happen. Where do we need to focus?
Okay, we have another question. It's also anonymous. Do you have any productivity or organization hacks that you can share?
So many. We wouldn't even have time. Yes, it sort of depends on exactly what you need in terms of productivity, but I can give you some general rules that you can adapt to yourself. First of all, if you are anybody who's working from home, if you don't already have a dedicated office or workspace, make sure that you have that. So don't try to work in the same place as you live, it is one way to think of it. If you don't have a separate desk, if you have to work at your kitchen table, say, then you want to make sure it looks very different when you're working there than when you're eating there. Clear off the salt and pepper shaker, only have your computer. At the end of the day, clear off your computer, put back the salt and pepper shaker. Another small trick, sit at a different chair. We tend to always sit at the same chair when we're eating, right? So try to sit somewhere different if you're at that same table and you're working. The point is, do everything you can to create a separate environment and a separate mentality from work and sound work. Another important tip for productivity in general is to embrace procrastination. Be very realistic about when you're productive, when your brain is at its strongest, when you're doing your best work. Work in that time. For a lot of people, it's early in the morning, and that's because when we wake up, we don't have what's called decision fatigue. Every single decision we make actually depletes a little bit of brain power. Smaller decisions a little bit, bigger decisions deplete a lot of brain power. So that's why traditionally people, it is said that people are more productive in the morning. But test yourself. Give yourself a week or two to say, when is your energy strong? When is it low? When your energy is low, it's okay to not work. I like to do mini breaks. So I'll do something like when I finish one phase of a project or something that I'm working on, I'll get up and do a load of laundry, because throwing in a load of laundry takes no more than 5 minutes. It's a complete distraction. I don't have to use my head, but I also have to stand up and walk, right? So it still gets the blood flowing a little bit. And that's a mini break that then I can come back, after which I can come back to my desk and start something new. So don't be afraid of procrastination. You have to be accountable to yourself. So you are working when your brain functions well, but in the moments when you're not being productive, take a break, reset, whether it's a 5-minute break or a 25-minute break, do what you have to do so that you're not doing mediocre work or just wasting your time at your desk.
Okay, we have another question from Shelly. I am currently working on a business plan as an HR consultant. Do you have any business structure that you would suggest for this type of business? Examples, LLC, sole proprietorship, or S Corp?
I'm going to do that thing again where you do want to talk to a business attorney about this. You can, and again, ACE probably has resources here. I have resources, but there are different, obviously, filing implications. There's also a lot of different reporting implications depending on which you choose. So the more complex the structure, the more reporting you have to do. Even if it's just you still have to file and maintain files of these annual reports and board reports. On the other side, you have to consider liabilities. So if you get sued, what could somebody come after? What are the vulnerabilities that you're creating? How can you separate your business and work, assets, money, life, so that you are protecting yourself, so that you're aware of those liabilities, shall we say, or minimizing them. That is really the main thing you want to consider when you're looking at structure. It's really that legal side that's going to make a difference, especially at first. As you grow the business, there might be reasons to change from one structure to the next. So when you do talk to an attorney, make sure that you get a good explanation of the differences so that you can make a decision for now, but maybe you can put an alarm clock reminder for yourself in 3 years, say, and because you say, when I get to 15 employees, it might make sense to change. Or once I want to expand globally, it might make sense to change, so that you know the moments at which you should be picking up the phone and speaking to an attorney again about making that adjustment.
Okay, we have another question from Charles. The what, why, how? Are they to be done in that order, or what best suits the business?
They're to be done in that order. The reason for the order is that you're building up towards the description of value. And so I've talked about, it's holding yourself accountable to yourself. And again, I say this as humans, it's really hard for us to do that. It's very difficult for us to we can say, okay, I have to go to the gym 3 times this week and do that. That's one form of accountability that's very quantitative. It's very difficult for us to hold ourselves accountable in a qualitative fashion. So to say, am I answering this question correctly? Am I really putting my best foot forward? Have I really thought this through? Have I examined this from all angles? The order, the reason that order is set in place is because it forces you to do that. Each question that you're answering has to look at what came before and say, wait, is this true? Is this valuable? Is this qualitatively what I really should be focused on?
Okay, we have another anonymous question. How long does it take to set up a management process like this?
Yeah, that's a common question, actually. It's a good point. I would say realistically 3 months. And the reason for that is I'm thinking beginning to end, create the plan, or do the work, create the plan, and then implement the plan. If you have employees, you want to get them involved in this. So you don't just want to put all this together and then go to them and say, okay, making some changes. Jennifer, you're over here. Rosie, you're over there. But actually, as you're answering these questions and building this up, you want to start to get them involved and say, hey, I was thinking about the way we do marketing, and I'm trying to break this down. And I know you do some of these things. What am I missing? Does this make sense? Do you agree? What would you add? What would you change? If you have employees, remember that any change you make to the business, they're the ones that have to do the change. So you want to get them involved early on so that they buy into the change. They don't feel like you're just telling them what to do and it's imposed on them. So that's one thing to factor in terms of time. Even if you're a solopreneur, if you're on your own, do consider that even for yourself, this might require some changes in habits and how you do things. Plan for this to be 3 months. Think of this as a project. I'm going to take 3 months to write this out, implement it, and know that it's working in my business. That's a realistic time frame.
Okay, I have a question. How do I turn this into a job descriptions?
Everything you're putting in the what has to happen, why it has to happen, and how it's successful you can then group together by function. So once you've done all this, so remember we were saying you've got this whole thing and then you add people in at the end. If you need to hire for a position, the people are a placeholder. Create a fake person 1 or Joe Smith, and say, how would I want these things to go together? What makes sense? And you start to group, take the whole way across, if you will, what, why, and how, and put those under the group of Joe Smith. So this is everything that Joe Smith is accountable for. Now you take those 3, if you think of them as 3 columns, and turn them into a full sentence. I need this role, Joe Smith, or the person I'm hiring, to grow, put us in front of new clients, make sure people know that we exist, because we want to attract the best clients to grow our business. And so in order to do that, Joe Smith has to, have 5 sales conversations a week, whatever it might be. Just turn all of that into full sentences. That's basically your job description. Whether you're hiring, or actually I say hiring, but even, if you do have employees, if this does bring about changes, that's an area you can get them involved in. You can say, hey, let's rewrite your job spec. What it is that you do. Let's use this structure, and then have them write their job description. Again, that gives them buy-in, but it's using these, turn them into sentences. And then before you say, if you are hiring, before you send it out, you just top and tail it with, just polish it up so that it actually looks like a job description. You have to add things like who is the business, salary, etc., all those requirements that go into a job description. But the point is that when people read that, they're really going to understand what they have to do. And you're not going to be hiring somebody that thinks that the job is one thing and 6 months later finds out that it's something else, and vice versa. You thought they were really skilled in one area, but actually they don't do what you thought they did, because it's so explicit.
Okay, and we have one last question from Charles. I want my business to be solid from an organizational perspective. Would it be overkill to just write everything in pen? I am thinking everything is important.
The short answer, yes, would be. It's hard to know what's important. It's hard to say that something isn't important. I appreciate that. But that's why once you start, once you break it down into really small parts, you'll see the things that aren't, or the things that are important but malleable. You know, so you might say in the success column, you might say, well, networking is a key way in which we attract new clients. Well, COVID, you know, and so networking is kind of, it's either gone, you know, we're not out there at these group events, or it's changed so drastically because now we're networking virtually. So that's the sort of thing that you might have thought was written in pen, but all of a sudden you realize that's written in pencil, because we can adapt that. We can adapt the tactic. We can adapt that tactically to something new. So, you know, you'll find that there's a lot in there that that you'll be happy to adapt. And in fact, you might, you know, start finding that it's kind of fun to be innovative with some of these areas and experiment with new things. But that's why I also say, start with the full list, put everything down, and then answer that why question. And that's when you're going to start to say, actually, you know what, this can move away, or this is not as important, or this other thing that I hadn't even thought about is very important. It'll all become clear through going through that process.
Okay, we will adjourn today's webinar. Rebecca, Brizi, we're grateful for your time and for sharing your expertise with all of us today.
Thank you for
The
having me.
webinar has been very informative, and we hope that it has been value to all participants. Thank you as well to all participants for joining us today. Check our calendar for events so you can continue to join us. Our next topic is how a business can come out strong from a crisis webinar. Please make sure that you register. Lastly, since we are partially funded by the SBA, we'll appreciate if you can reply to a short survey I have posted in the chat box, and we will be sending it out as well with the slides of the presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a great day.